Kia ora. Mo taku Huritao tēnei wiki. Ko te Huritao Tacoma waru nanau te mahi mā te kiriata mā te kōrero. So, mana motuhake in action. Explore what it means to demonstrate mana motuhake leadership and practice, especially when things get challenging. So, in Huritao Tacoma Ono, when I had to unpack what mana motuhake means for me, this is the definition that I found most helpful. Modern mana motuhake can be understood as a concept that embodies the individual and collective pursuit of regaining authority, sovereignty and identity within the parameters of colonised existence. This existence closely intertwines with tino rangatiratanga, decolonisation, self-determination and indigenisation. So, I've had a look at the prompts that we were given in the Pai Wānanga from the Something for the People episode, and I think that the different kaupapa that they unpacked with Kahurangi Native Glavish, Irukapa Kingi and the Kai Tā Era Kaupapa Te Wiki all have an example of where you need to demonstrate mana motuhake leadership in challenging situations. So the Kaipara District Council issue, well, clearly we have there wahine toa, that one sole Māori female councillor choosing to be incredibly brave and stand up for what was tika and request and explain why she would like to begin hui with karakia. And that really demonstrates mana motuhake, that in such a colonised, as the definition talks about, it is about trying to reclaim authority and sovereignty despite being in a horopaki o ngā tāmitanga. So I thought that was an excellent example of that, and Dame Native Glavish was scathing of the kuari of the koromatua of Kaipara District Council for not understanding that kaupapa. Irukapa Kingi was unpacking how the tribunal process works because the Ngāti Maniapoto settlement had just been signed with the Crown, and talking about just how difficult it can be for iwi who follow the tribunal process and then those who choose to go to direct settlement negotiations, and that every different iwi have different rautaki. And I think that underscores the fact that it is a colonised process, like using the courts, using the tribunal. The Crown law actually puts up arguments against iwi at every tribunal hearing to try and claw back how much the Crown was actually responsible for, even though it's meant to be not an argumentative type court setting. It's meant to be an inquisitorial, inquiry-based court setting, the tribunal. There is still that attempt by the crowd to minimise their responsibility. So iwi who stand firm in that context and proclaim the truth of their experiences and the land that's been lost as an attempt to hold mana motuhake, despite the fact it's a very complex and challenging colonised space. And then the wahine tā moko, who had been privileged enough to do the moko kanohi or papahemi. And then the fact that at the end of her kōrero, she said her next steps in her challenge is that she's trying to encourage those in her tāmoko community, her mahitoi community, who do not speak te reo Māori, but in a waha, like cannot kōrero a waha, but a community communicating te ao Māori and tikanga Māori through their mahitoi to learn to speak te reo Māori. And that is definitely like a real complex and challenging setting for somebody to say, okay, despite what we're trying to do, there's more that could be done to be more authentic. That's my response to the prompts, and just thinking about my own personal experiences of late. So I've had a challenging experience over the last couple of months where we had a kaimahi whose behaviour breached the code of conduct for teachers and for our own kura. And because of that, and because it impacted children, we had to go through a legal process. So it is difficult and complex when you must follow a legal process. However, you want to demonstrate mana motuhake leadership. And so the way I did it was I really did draw on my mata pono of tika and pono and aroha. So I was very open about the fact that we had to do an investigation, we had to document, and we had to follow the legal process. However, at the same time, we were going to be following a tikanga Māori process of Huritao, which we did, and we completed that in a really timely manner alongside the beginning of the legal process. I completed the investigation and reported it on while continuing to work alongside the kaimahi and the whānau and the other hoa mahi to restore relationships. And that took a lot more to hold space for everyone to come to it in their own time and keep reminding people of why we do it, which is to uphold the mana and restore mana that has been lost or has been takahi by the behaviour and return back to whanaungatanga. So there's a lot of coaching and a lot of aroha ki te tangata as well. To everybody and how they had experienced the behaviour and how it was impacted on them going forward. I think it is possible, and this is not fully resolved yet. However, my part of it has been resolved, and I believe that the approach I took in that complex setting to stick to my mātāpono and to choose that we were going to uphold tikanga Māori ways of resolving conflict and addressing harm and restoring mana, but also aroha ki te tangata in the midst of all that, was despite the fact there was a legal framework that we were sitting within, in an employment framework, we had responsibilities. I believe that I was able to do that. So, koe taku, Huritao, mō tēnei wiki.